What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. So today we are going to be talking about everyone's favorite sequel trilogy character, Ben Solo. Okay, maybe not everyone's favorite, but I don't think anyone's gonna argue that he is the overall fan favorite of this trilogy. Anyways, the topic that I want to discuss today is which version of this character was more powerful. Although an argument could certainly be made that Ben and Kylo were never really different people at all, for the purposes of this video, we will separate the two and ask the question, who was stronger? Was it the dark side version in Kylo Ren, who we saw for most of the trilogy? Or was it the redeemed light side version in Ben Solo, who we got to see in all of his glory in the final act of The Rise of Skywalker? Before we get into this, there's a couple of things that we need to point out first. While Ben Solo shares some commonalities with his late grandfather Darth Vader, their situations when it comes to this conversation really couldn't be more different. Anakin and Vader are clearly distinguishable due to the physical injuries Vader sustained in his duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith, and by the definitive change in mentality upon his turn to the dark side. Ben Solo, on the other hand, did not ever suffer anything close to the sort of physical damage that Vader did, nor was his decision to turn to the dark side anywhere near as concrete as his grandfather's, as from his perspective, he literally did not have any other choice. Now, with that being said, upon his turn to the dark side, Kylo Ren does adopt some new tendencies and begin to tap into some very intriguing and sometimes terrifying new abilities. The most notable of these powers including Force Stasis, where he literally just immobilizes other organisms, Mind Probe, which he uses on Poe Dameron in The Force Awakens and attempts to use on Rey, but she ends up channeling that power back onto him. And then finally, he displays a very strong ability to perform telekinesis throughout the trilogy, as he freezes blaster bolts in their tracks and tosses other beings through the air with relative ease. When it comes to his fighting style with a lightsaber, Kylo is fueled by anger and rage, relying heavily on brute strength and raw force to defeat his enemies. And whether we're talking about Ben Solo or Kylo Ren, there is no denying that he is significantly more effective when working alongside Rey. And that's because in those situations there is no confusion. He's focused, he's balanced, and he knows exactly what he wants to do. Whereas when he's fighting against her, he's continually pulling back, being sure not to hurt her, while also trying to make a bigger point in his attempts to turn her to the dark side. And it is that lack of clarity when he is using the dark side that I believe marks the most significant reason for why Ben Solo is so clearly more powerful than Kylo Ren. When Ben identifies as Kylo Ren, he's fighting so hard to be something he's not. He is desperate to prove to Snoke that he is a worthy apprentice, determined to prove to himself that he does not need his family or anyone else. They betrayed him and he resents them for that, but deep down, he also knows that his parents love him, that they believe in him, and that they do want him back. The internal feelings that Rey brings onto him are even more intense, but he simply does not believe that returning to the light is an option, regardless of whether he wants to do so or not. So this seesaw that is going on within, this massive struggle between light and dark, prevents him from becoming what he is meant to be. It is only once he kills Kylo Ren and fully embraces his true self that Ben Solo is finally freed from that conflict. And it is here, on Exegol, that we see the dyad finally become what they were meant to be all along. The light side of the Force makes Ben stronger, not only because of the clarity Rey has given him, but also because he is now free from all of the pain he has been carrying for his entire life. He knows who's been haunting him from the time he was born.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
He has gained the approval he needed from Han and Leia, and his mind is now fixated solely on protecting Rey. The Force is now flowing through him, rather than him trying to manipulate it for his own benefit. This allows Ben to connect more with the Force itself, and we can clearly see that as he fires no-look blaster shots with deadly accuracy, fights with a newfound agility and flair eerily reminiscent to Anakin Skywalker, which had largely eluded him to this point. Throughout this entire trilogy before this moment, even early on in The Rise of Skywalker, we see Kylo Ren fight with this aggression and rely very heavily on his physical dominance, thinking about every move he makes and just trying to overpower his opponents, whereas once Ben Solo returns, everything is very elegant and effortless as he leans into the Force and doesn't really do any thinking as he acts. He's literally an extension of the Force itself. And then finally, through the strength of their dyad, he is able to bring Rey back from the dead, finally completing his family's legacy, saving the one he loves, and making peace with Rey, with himself, and with the Force. The message here is clear. Everything Darth Sidious had tried to convince us of throughout this saga was wrong. The dark side of the Force is not stronger than the light. Rather, as we saw in the case of Ben Solo, it was actually holding him back. As Obi-Wan told Darth Maul in the Clone Wars, those who give in to the dark side are the weak ones. Those who resist it are more powerful than a dark side Force user could ever imagine.
It takes strength to resist the dark side. Only the weak embrace it.
When Ben Solo returns to the light, the Force guides him. His movements become so effortless as he acts without having to think. And like I said, he performs like a literal extension of the Force, operating in its purest form. And so when we break it down this way and really think about what we saw, particularly in The Rise of Skywalker, it's actually not even close. That was really one of the big points behind both he and Rey's characters, to show that even the smallest flicker of light can overcome the dark, and that when one embraces the light and rejects that darkness, they become stronger than any dark side Force user could. But I think that just about covers this topic, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys enjoyed, let me know in the comments section below. Please remember to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and may the Force be with you always.